morning, Luzon, Visayas at Mindanao. This is Mr. Arjun and Tisa per live from FINMA Auditorium. This is the breaking news at this time, brought to you by BBM TV, Balitang Bistak, Mindanao. Anything else, let's talk about Papua New Guinea's geography. Did you know that Papua New Guinea is an island in the Pacific Ocean? Its flag symbolizes the yellow bird as a stylish bird of paradise. It is culturally significant to Papua New Guineans and in full flight. It represents freedom and the country's birth as an independent nation. While the 5-star represents epsilon stars that are not as bright as the constellations of the Southern Cross, Alpha, Beta, Gamma, Delta, and others. The Southern Cross represents the geographical position of the country in the world and its commitment to that country, as is the case in the Australian flag. Guinea is a developing country according to Rostov's model of development. It's currently stage 1 of 5, meaning a traditional society. However, it's not all Stone Age. It still have a city called Port Moresby, which is the capital. This is the map of Papua New Guinea. It is located north of Australia and shares the eastern half of its main island with Indonesia. The world's 4th largest country population size. It has a very diverse geography. A spine of mountains run through the entire length of the island. It is covered by rainforests, wetlands, and swamplands. It is prone to earthquakes and volcanoes. The average temperature is around 80°F year-long, yet snowfall still occurs in some of the highlands. The entire island is surrounded by the coral reefs. Papua New Guinea is a resource-rich country, yet almost 40% of the population lives in poverty. The GDP, or the gross domestic product, of PNG is around $13.734 US. Its billion per capita is $2,395, while its public debt is 27.8% of GDP, while its unemployment rate is 1.8%. Agriculture 32.2%. Industry 35.7%, and its services is 32.1%. The Papua New Guinea obstacles to development. Its eternal factors is the lack of infrastructure due to such a weak government which owns about 2% of New Guineans' land. Such vast cultural diversity from tribes to Christianity will prevent the government from getting any stronger. The average New Guinean earns about $1.25 per day, but dollars mean almost nothing in a society where only 18% of the population lives in urban environment. There are far too many tribes with a significant amount of land to tap into the land natural resources. The lack of access to technology causes a lot of improvisation like using skulls as pillows. Surrounding countries like Indonesia and Australia have absolute advantage over this country, which will make it hard to compete in foreign markets. Its external factors to obstacles to development is the head of the state of the country is Queen Elizabeth. So it is controlled by others. New Guinean is just seen as a country for tourism, which is bad when it tries to step up its game and enter the global market. Education and the economy of the entire country is controlled by the external factors like churches. Despite its obstacles to development, Papua New Guinea has its resources and potentials. These are, first, the most untapped resources in the world by percentage of its land, 98.2% of which is all forest, swampland, and mountain. It is also has well over 50%. Second, the country has historically lived in a sustenance and backyard agriculture. For thousands of years, if agriculture can be increased, the majority of it will be surplus and ready to ship globally. Third, the countries surrounds New Guinea have an absolute advantage. This means New Guinea has comparative advantage over Australia, Indonesia, and Philippines. Increasing exports to these countries will be the next step in development.
Hello world, hello Philippines. Live from Papua New Guinea, this is Robert J. Nahini reporting. Did you know that Papua New Guinea has 851 languages? Papua New Guinea is the most linguistically diverse country in the world. Before the European colonization, the adults in its tribal society in the Papua New Guinea educated their children on the practical skills, social behavior, and spiritual belief. Papua New Guinea's education system has 3 levels: primary, secondary, tertiary, and the academic years runs from January to December. The government has embarked on free and compulsory education in year 2015, and the level of resources will need to complement the school structure to enhance the standards of education and to keep the children in school. The standard-based education structure is called 266 structures as outlined below. 2 years for early childhood education, 6 years for primary education from grade 1 up to grade 6, and 6 years for high school or secondary education, grade 7 to grade 12. As a result of public demand and outcry, the O'Neill Dion government directed the Department of Education to abolish outcome-based education in schools throughout the country. Shift in terminologies from OBC to SBC. The following terms has changed from the outcome-based curriculum to standard-based curriculum. This is now the example of flexible open distance education in Papua New Guinea. This is now the shift in terminologies from OBC to SBC. The outcomes-based education changed to standards-based education. The outcomes-based curriculum changed to standards-based curriculum. The lower secondary changed to junior secondary. The upper secondary changed to senior high school. The outcomes changed to context standards. The indicators based on benchmarks, evidence outcomes, performance standards, and of course, subtrans units to topic. All SBCTL materials are being developed using these new terms, etc., syllables, and T guides. Now, this is the 8 teachers' policy goals in Papua New Guinea to be effective teachers. Number 1, setting clear expectations for teachers. Number 2, attracting the best into teaching. Number 3, preparing teachers with useful training and experience. Number 4, matching teachers' skills and students with students' needs. Number 5, leading teachers with strong principles. Number 6, monitoring teachers or teaching and learning. Number 7, supporting teachers to improve instruction. Number 8, motivating teachers to perform. Again, this is Robert J. Nahinia from Papua New Guinea reporting.
Papua New Guinea is a constitutional monarchy with parliamentary democracy. Papua New Guinea's constitution was adopted in September 16, 1975 and has been amended frequently since then. The country is a constitutional monarchy and a member of the Commonwealth. The British monarch, represented by the Governor-General, was the head of the state, and the Prime Minister is the head of the government. The unicameral national parliament has 111 members who are elected to serve the 5-year terms. Of those, 89 represents single member of electorates. Each of the 22 represents one of the provincial electorates. The parliament nominates the Governor-General, who is then appointed by the British monarch. The Parliament also elects the Prime Minister, who in turn appoints the ministers of the National Executive Council. The head of the state is Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II since 1975. Governor-General of Papua New Guinea is Bob Daddy since February 28, 2017. The Prime Minister of Papua New Guinea is James Marape since May 30, 2019.
Start.
The three spheres of government is the national government, which has a legislative power in connection with foreign investments, exchange control, immigration, trading and financial corporations, banking, most taxation, customs and excise, shipping and overseas trade. While the provincial government, the provincial legislators can pass law on a limited but important range of matters, including agriculture, fishing, trade and industry, land and land development, forestry and natural resources. Provincial governments also have a certain limited powers to raise revenue, including the right, subject to certain conditions, to impose sales and services taxes. While the local government system was introduced to the country by the colonial administration, generally a council will represent a number of villages and will manage and administer the area under its control. Local government has legislative power in connection with other things, labor and employment, provision of water and electricity, local trading, and local environment.
Start.
Branches of the government of Papua New Guinea. Executive branch, the monarch stands as a ceremonial figurehead, while the Governor-General represents the monarch of the United Kingdom by acting upon the advice of the Prime Minister and the Cabinet. The Governor-General is appointed by the monarch, and the Prime Minister is appointed by the Governor-General. All decisions are made by Her Majesty's discretion. Second branch is the judicial. In here, the Supreme Court hears appeal and reviews decision made by the National Court. The Chief Justice appointed by the Governor General upon the advice of the National Executive Council after consultation with the National Justice Administration Minister. Remaining judges are appointed by the Judicial and Legal Services Commissions. The citizen judges have 10 years term, while non-citizens only have 3 years term. The third branch is the legislative. Constitution states that the legislative power of the people is vested in the national parliament. They are elected through an alternative voting system in 5 years. Political process in Papua New Guinea. National elections are held every 5 years, and many hundreds of candidates run for seats in the national parliament. Commonly, a high proportion, as many as 3/4, will be sitting, may lose their seats in a given election cycle, indicating popular discontent with the performance of legislators and reflecting the intensity of competition and fragmented nature of their electorates. Some regions have been electoral violence and fraud. International and domestic observers, including civil society, watchdog groups, citizen election monitors, and local churches have for decades alleged problems of the corruption in the government. Papua New Guinea's politics are highly competitive. Members of parliament are elected on a first-past-the-post system, with winners frequently gaining less than 15% of the votes. Papua New Guinea has a history of changes in government coalitions and leadership from within parliament during the 5-year intervals between national elections. Bougainville Island, a rebellion island, had been underway from early 1989 until a truce came into effect on October 1997, and a permanent ceasefire was signed in April 1998. A peace agreement between the government and the ex-combatants was signed in August 2001 under the eyes of the Regional Peace Monitoring Force and an observer mission. The government and provincial leaders has established an interim administration and are working toward complete surrender of weapons, the election of provincial government, and the eventual referendum on independence.
Papua New Guinea is a country very rich in resources. However, it is very unsafe for travelers due to its high crime rates, civil unrest, health conditions, natural disasters, and kidnapping. Although it is part of the Australian continental bloc, it suffers a lot of issues economically. First, 40% of its people suffers from poverty. Second, government corruption is very rampant, resulting to economic mismanagement. Third, its health core system is very fragile. In fact, the country has very few hospitals, and when people are sick, they resort to traditional healers. Very weak enforcement of law against women and children is also observed in Papua New Guinea, and it is manifested by the high crime rates against women and children. In fact, 2/3 of the women in the country suffers from domestic violence. Police abuse is also very rampant. This is because there is shortage of policemen in the country. The UN is suggesting that there should be one policeman for every 450 people. But in Papua New Guinea, there is only one police officer protecting and serving 1,145 citizens. Police brutality and abuse is also very common. In fact, police officers target children and women for sexual violence. Another very alarming issue in the country, especially in the remote areas, is cannibalism. Cannibalism is being practiced, and it is an act of human beings eating the flesh and internal organs of another human being. So, if you are planning to include Papua New Guinea for your bucket list in your vacation and leisure, please think twice, because indeed, Papua New Guinea is not safe for travelers.
In Papua New Guinea, children come to school and they have very little knowledge of reading materials. Many children don't even see books before they come to school. Teachers are struggling because they don't have the proper reading materials to teach from, and children don't even get to see or hold a book in the early grades.
Before, reading was just about reading a story and answering comprehension questions.
There was a missing link in the teaching of reading and also English as a subject.
Over the years, Papua New Guinea has been actively trying to improve its educational system. Education in Papua New Guinea has struggled to instruct 2 million elementary and primary age children due to lack of classrooms, lack of teachers, and teaching facilities. There is very low quality of education in the country. This is primarily due to, first, language barriers for foreign teachers teaching English. Second, there is unreliable resource distribution from the city to the remote areas of the country pertaining to learning materials and equipment. There is also underqualification of teaching staff, outdated curriculum, and insufficient equipment. To address these issues, the Australian Prime Ministers partnered with the Papua New Guinean government and other donors to implement reform agenda for education. The PNG's educational leaders has been trying its best to improve its educational system with only one goal in mind: to create more opportunities for its people and to emphasize the beauty of experiencing an industrious life today and beyond. This is Rosalie Ambasa reporting from Papua New Guinea.